June 9th, 1976, a boy by the name of Damien Godson visited Luna Park, a theme park located in the suburb just north of Sydney, Australia. After stopping to take a photo with a sinister-looking busker, Damien boarded the ghost train ride with his father and brother. At 10:15 p.m., the ride caught fire, resulting in the deaths of Damien and 6 other train riders. The cause of the fire was initially declared to be undetermined, but many officials suspected that the cause of the fire was arson. Today, we will discuss the more prominent Moloch conspiracy theory attached to this case, and the lesser-known, more sinister corruption conspiracy. Before we discuss the conspiracies, we must understand the facts. At 10:15 p.m., the ghost train ride, located in Luna Park, caught fire. The water sprinkler system in the tunnel section of the ride was inadequate, and it was unable to provide proper coverage to extinguish the fire. The coroner concluded that the park officials had ignored proper water safety system advice and went for a cheaper, less successful system. At the time of the fire, the park was severely understaffed. Because of this, there were less people who were qualified to help put out the fire. Despite these flaws, the coroner concluded that criminal negligence charges should not be laid. Finally, it is also important to note that the riders who perished in the fire were riders who had left their seats, while the survivors all stayed on the ride. Now we can discuss the first theory. Shortly after boarding the ride, Damien stopped to take a picture with a sinister-looking busker. The busker wore a white, cattle-like headpiece and a spotted loincloth. Many theorists claim that the man in the picture is dressed as Moloch. For those of you who don't know, Moloch is a Canaanite deity who has a human-like body with the head of a bull. In medieval culture, Moloch was depicted as a bull-headed man who often held his hands over fire. In the Bible, there are several passages that refer to Moloch, associating him with fire and child sacrifice. Many conspiracy theorists have drawn the parallel between the ghost train tragedy and these passages, claiming that the fire was set in order to sacrifice children to Moloch. This is supported by how 6 of the 7 victims were sadly children. When most people talk about the Moloch theory, their claims usually end there, but there is a bit more to it. Out of Damien's family, only his mother wasn't a victim of the fire. She had decided to get ice cream instead of accompanying her family on the ghost train ride. In an interview she conducted many years after the incident, she said, "I did question it, and I have learned to have a truly open mind. I am not a religious person, but I feel that it was all meant to be. I just feel that it was all meant to be." These statements are a bit out of left field, especially since many people believe the fire was intentionally set. Another interesting aspect of the theory is how 7 years after the fire, a mysterious baby fell into Miss Godson's hands. She claimed that the photograph, the fire, and the baby were all connected in, quote, "a larger story we don't have a say in." Now that we know all the information, we can put the pieces together. Before boarding the ghost train, Damien took a photo with a man who was dressed as Moloch. While riding the ghost train, a fire broke out, and this resulted in the deaths of 6 children. Perhaps the Moloch look-alike started the fire in order to sacrifice children to his deity. Many years after the fire, Damien's mother receives a mysterious baby in order to help her overcome her grief. The second major conspiracy theory revolves around the infamous Australian organized crime figure, Abraham Safran. Safran was involved in many different crimes, such as bribery and extortion, but his only major conviction was for federal tax evasion. From what I could find, Safran became a suspect when his niece, Anne Buckingham, told the press that Safran was involved with the fire. She claimed that Safran's motivation was he wanted to own Luna Park, and a disaster like the fire was likely to result in a change of the park's owners. Before the fire, the park was being leased to businessman Leon Fink and his partner, Nathan Spat. Fink had wanted to fully purchase the park, but he was stopped by the politician, Neville Wran. This was in part to Wran disliking the businessmen due to their past disrespectful behavior towards him. By preventing the sale of the park, Wran could get back at the businessmen and help his friend, Abe Safran, at the same time. It is believed that, working with Wran, Safran had the fire set in order to have Fink and Spat removed from the lease. In recent years, several public safety members have gone on the record and stated that several corrupt officials have worked to cover up the true nature of the fire. These officials included several politicians on both the local and national level. Interestingly enough, the police commissioner was also apparently in on the conspiracy, and he used his influence in the police force to help hide the truth about the fire. After the incident, Safran's cousins and nephew took control over Luna Park. In short, organized crime leader Abe Safran used his political connections to prevent the sale of Luna Park to Leon Fink and Nathan Spat. Then, he had a fire set, so Fink and Spat would lose the lease to the park. This information was covered up by many public figures, and the park was inevitably sold to Safran's relatives. Well, that does it for the Luna Park ghost train conspiracy theories. I find it interesting how the more realistic corruption conspiracy theory gets overshadowed by the Moloch theory. Perhaps officials use their influence to get the press to focus on the mysterious busker instead of them, but who really knows? It is also important to note that these theories are just for fun, and you should not subscribe to them. Instead, you should subscribe to the channel, so you will be notified when a new conspiracy theory video is released. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.